of 2 police officers, leaving one in a critical condition. We'll have a briefing by
Inspector General of Police, Minister of the Interior, National Security Advisor of the Republic of the Gambia, colleagues, senior police officers here present.
Alaifawu, Gonyadiro, Kanakiwa, Kondoman, So, ladies and gentlemen, quickly, let me know if you can hear me. Let me check the volume of my device. All right, so we would preface this conversation specifically on, Sankari and DIG So, and primarily on the DIG, because for me, Sankari is not much of my problem, because I hold the belief that everything that Sankari had said was said to him by DIG So. Even though he is blatantly refusing to tell that it was DIG So that told him everything that he said, and trying to give us a faceless, testimony that, of course, it's the police department, and claiming that he spoke to all the police officers, which is impossible. It's impossible that Sankari could talk to every police officer in the Gambia. And evidently, we all know that the police have a hierarchy and command responsibility. Now, being an institution that has command responsibility and security apparatus like that, we know that not any Tom, Dick, and Harry would pick up a call to speak to State House, more so on matters that relate to, the death of serving police officers. So in that regard, Sankari's claim of I spoke to the police department and deliberately refusing to tell who exactly he spoke to is clear evidence that he's concealing their lies and fabrications that the government of the Gambia masterminded. Now, if there is a second thing to it, if Sankari believes in everything he had said earlier on that coffee time so, he should be very happy to come and say that everything that I said, I stand by it, and all of those things that I said were said to me by this particular person. Why is Sankari so afraid to tell the persons he speaks to? Of course, the court will not force you to tell their names, but the court will determine that you came to the court and, of course, said something that does not hold water. Because Sankari cannot speak to everybody in the police department. But why is Sankari trying to conceal DIG So? Because at the time we know evidently that DIG So was the de facto IG, because the IG had traveled out and he had the command responsibility within the police force, and he will be the right person to communicate anything that has to do with the death of their people. So anything that Sankari would say contrary to that is just bogus, it's just lies and fabrications. Now, deliberately coming to court and tell us that, oh yeah, I spoke to the police department, is deliberate and intentional not to tell the exact person who lied to him, because they all know that everything that they had said to the Gambian people do not hold water. That everything they've said against Usainu Bojang are now lies. Now, knowing that everything they had said are lies, they're deliberately refusing to tell the persons who actually gave them those information. And then it is so vague. And then Sankari's, testimony cannot have its strength lying on just, vagueness to say, I spoke to the police department. The police department is not an individual. The police department cannot speak. The individuals that are within the police make up the police department. And the police have a command responsibility. And then it's not any person who can just jump and talk. So why is Sankari so afraid to tell us that DIG So told him everything that he had said? But of course, we know that in the press conference that DIG So and Co. organized, he had, re-mentioned and re-echoed, and of course, kind of tried to strengthen the things that Sankari had said that they were through. But where do we want to start off today? Now, when DIG came to court and was asked, and funnily, before you even get to that, when Sankari was being pushed by, Council Silla, you can basically see the agitation. And then because of his agitation and being pushed by Council Silla, he had exposed the government without noticing. Now, first you realize that the defense had actually put up, they kind of did not want to come to court, and they had actually put up an objection to that and wanted to go to an appeal court because they wanted to appeal the decision to subpoena them. Now, subpoenaing these folks was based on the utterances they made to the public, and they spoke to the Gambian people and alleged issues on Ousainou Bojang. Funny enough, the defense turned out to be put in the box to be, no, the prosecution turned out to be put in the box to be questioned about things they had said. Now, you have been questioned about things you had said, and prior to that, they said you don't want to come to court. But Sankari told us that he is the one who told them that we will go to court, because Sankari is interested in clearing his name. But while trying to clear his name, he's deliberately and intentionally refusing to tell the people who gave him the information. And then according to him, it is out of his voluntary willingness to come to court to testify. And then he had told the office of the president or the presidency that, of course, we got to go to court and, of course, testify. And deliberately refusing to go and then appealing this decision would actually make us look funny. It's not going to make you look funny. The whole world knew that you people killed the cops. It's not about looking funny. Coming to court and not coming to court is already immaterial now, because you had the intention not to come, but you know that you cannot actually bow to public pressure on this matter, and then there is no way you can clean yourself. The only option you got was to come to court. And we had said a long time ago that someday you all will stand before the court, and of course your videos will be played, and then you will listen to yourself and then be asked questions about things that you have said. Go. You don't have a commission of inquiry or a commission or a TRRC, but you are actually having your TRRCs in court already. So the fact of the matter is that Sankari is pretentiously behaving that, oh yeah, you cannot put words in my mouth. And now you see their tactic. They are using wordings and trying to actually use words to outsmart people, but they can't outsmart anyone, because the judge is very conscious of what is happening and knows everything that is happening. Sankari, you said that Ousainou Bojang was actually, he got co-conspirators who actually took him to the thick forest of Casamas. And you cannot shy away from that. But the funny thing is that DIG So said he never knew that there was a 1 million bounty given by the president to any person who probably know the whereabouts of the murderer. Now, this was a public information that was all out there for everybody to know. This was in the media houses, it was in the news, it was all over. How comes the Deputy Inspector General of Police, second in command of the Gambia Police Force, did not know that police officers were killed, and the president said whoever knows their murderer would actually be giving 1 million? That the Deputy Inspector General of Police, second in command of the Gambia Police Force, at a time, de facto IG at the time, because the IG traveled, said he did not know that the President of the Republic had said that, anybody who knows or who sees the murderer of these people would actually be giving 1 million. These things were actually said in the, Security Council meeting. And of course, they came out in the news and everybody knew. So how comes? And then we know from intel that the person who received the 1 million received it at the police headquarters. And then it was only one media house that was there. And then when they gave this person this money, it was never played in that media house. And we know that media house are people who are major funders of the NPP. I wouldn't name their name, but we know them. The media house that attended the giving of 1 million to Mama Jabi at the police headquarters, basically, they are propaganda tools for the government. And of course, the person, before he actually was giving the heavy fuel contract in the Gambia, gave NPP 6 pickup trucks. This person runs a media house in the Gambia. And because of his association and funding to the NPP, he was giving heavy fuel contract to actually supply heavy fuel into the Gambia. And prior to that, he actually gave 6 vehicles to the NPP. You see how these criminals connive? Atol kalben to labang ko sambal wala nyama. Ko atol lolong tonya de wolon democracy de wolon nyarota de wolon bank wala tankoni tankot. Ko atol se wulu no ale police wala fa ale bodo ko rengal ka tapal yala tilim mola. You come to Koriga. Now, when DIG was asked, you said Ousainou Bojang was at the UDP court case with a gun. oh, I never mentioned a gun. Of course, he did not mention a gun at that point because he said a weapon. Now, he's not telling us that I did not say he was there with a weapon, but he said, oh, I did not mention a gun. DIG, answer the question. Did you say Usain Obojang was at the UDP court case in Banjul with a weapon? And this weapon, we were told, is a pistol. So why are you now trying to say, oh, no, I did not say this, I said that, because you're trying to play word smart. You cannot play word smart here because you said it. You clearly said that Usain Obojang was at the UDP court case with the gun. And everybody heard it. That he was there with the weapon. So what is this weapon? This weapon is not a knife. This weapon is not a stick. This weapon is not a tear gas. This weapon was a gun. And this gun was what was used to kill these people. And that is why you picked the bullet and took it to the military for ballistic examination. So either you said a gun or not, the weapon equates a gun here. So why are you trying to play word smart? But that tells you ninke by fanya for mala ba fa mabola nyami nana tabuka fota sodo, and that is basically what happened. Ke baba ke londi ke for londi banko be nyati no lete ko police ol bele kunton kolet en ay ka fo ko karning kido be nyun la hanen ma fo kido e ma fo kido yemo ko weapon. What is the weapon? What is the name of that weapon? That your children could sit down and be listening. That is our dad. That he was trying to manipulate a whole system, fabricate a script against a young man who is probably their age mate. That you said the guy was in possession of a weapon from a long time. You were asked in court, you said, no, I never said that. You never said that, but of course your video is there and the video will be brought to you in court on Monday and it will be played in the presence of the entire country. And of course you will be asked questions pertaining to things you have said. You cannot change those facts. Because the facts exist before us. Several media houses are now compelled to bring those evidences to court. You were harassing a journalist when he asked you about gun recovery. But at DIG we did not mention about any gun recovery here. But of course, your witness came to court and said he recovered the gun on the day of the incident. But you people knowing fully well that Usain Obojang has no hand in this, and you know that you deliberately and intentionally killed these boys to actually frame the United Democratic Party. Altata witness double just to frame somebody. But how can the police do that? Will understand, like the police could go to an extent that they go and get witnesses and then kind of cajole these folks to come to court and lie against an innocent man and his sister. That the Gambia police force that is supposed to protect its citizens, they can kill its own people and turn around to frame other people and use the same other Gambians to come and lie about the same case. I used to think that Gambians are very nice and good until one time I was with one of my friends. I was like, I think we were somewhere. And these issues of killings were becoming a little bit rampant. So one time they told us, oh, somebody died. I was like, maybe nalal long thing. It's mentality of nalal, you got to change that. But that somebody could just be picked by the police to come and lie against somebody that you never know. In a maje, in a malon, dunia blado. Dankodron police will be a fania kovala nyami. They come and awardete na they will yasifa bela okam to come and testify that you are a witness. You are the person who drove this person, just for us to realize that this person actually left the next day. What kind of a witness are you? That you will be watching this case as it unfolds and still believe that, oh, you are the person who went to court to testify that you are the one who drove these folks. What kind of, mentality do we have? What kind of conscience do you have as a human being? But of course, we have soulless people in the Gambia. That includes DIG. So DIG was asked in court, you said you use codes to get this person. Where are your codes? And he said for security reasons, he cannot provide the codes because the codes do not exist. And let's put that into context. Why do the military use some of these codes? To basically locate enemies. And when you locate enemies, you actually use those things as evidence to prove your case. Now that you said you use this code, they ask you to bring the codes as evidence to prove your case. You said, no, you cannot give it to the court because for security reasons. Does it make sense? Why do we even actually, play these codes in the first place? If you want to locate the enemy, at the end of the day, you said Usain Bojan killed the cops and you use your codes to get him. This code should serve as big evidence to the court to determine that Usain Bojan indeed did kill the cops. You said, no, you cannot provide them because their security, whatever. Does that make any logical sense at all? This man should be in mile 2 by now. But funny enough, when DIG was asked about heavy telephone traffic, that he said that because there was a heavy telephone traffic in Usain Bojan's phone, and they started tracking him. When he was asked, where are the evidences of the heavy telephone traffic? He said, Masodo, nena Masodo. I don't have them, and I never had them. Because you talk about telephone on the track, and because there were, heavy telephone traffic in that particular phone. When you were asked, where is the heavy telephone traffic evidence? You said you don't have them and you never had them. So how and why did you say that? I think sometimes the defense is a little bit lenient with you, because when Sankari said that, I relied on the information given to me and the evidence, you should have just given him a follow-up question. Provide us the evidence that you relied on to say what you said. But now that DIG clearly told you that, I never had anything about the call logs, and I, ask him, why did you say that? Because if you never had them, you did not have them and you never had them, how did you come to the conclusion that there was heavy telephone traffic in the dude's phone? And besides, does it make any logical sense in the Gambia that somebody could be having a lot of phone calls and then the police already start tracking your phone? Does that make any sense? It does not exist. So whatever DIG said in that press conference, all together, were all fabrications and lies and propaganda. Deceit was meant basically to target the United Democratic Party. Evidently, he said, I did not mention the name of any political party here and there. What these people said was, he was in that court sitting on that Thursday in Banjul. Who was in that court sitting on that Thursday in Banjul? It's the United Democratic Party and, of course, Yankuba Dabo, to be specific. So you cannot now come and say, no, nga fote ne ma fote. O matol kanan di jang. Ali ya mimfo. Ya fote, ima fote. Ye mimbe fo abe mu faniality. Everything that these folks said were complete fabricated scripts and lies. But now the question is, who killed the cops? Who really killed the cops? And if it is not government, why did the government lie? Why did DIG so lie? Why is everything about Sankari lies? Now, why did Sankari actually try to, cover or seal himself with the word I used allegedly? Ning ayatara Sankari lata ko, based on evidence and everything that he said were true, he would come and say, police ole afonye karla afonya tenne anunta lata wala plus the evidence yemin dinna ibefele. But he never brought any evidence. But he said he relied on the evidence given to him by the police to actually go to West Coast Radio and say everything that he said. He told us that the president did not sleep. But how can DIG come out and tell us that he never knew that the president gave a bounty of 1 million? Who did not know that in the Gambia? That an adult, an old man, a retiree, second in command of the Gambia police force could come to court after, taking oath, believing that he has, some religious tendencies, and of course he's a divine believer. But these are folks who don't believe in nothing. Almalla fenna, almalla alala. Na manke dunia na fulo ni palaso dalla ta odronala. Rey ni darasi koto yini. Just for them to stay where they are, to kill you is nothing to them. Their attitudes are as disgusting as nothing that anybody can imagine. But the fact of the matter is that I was so happy to watch QTV News, and I could see Usain going down and somebody talking to him and he could smile. Because back in the day, it isn't what it is today. And that is why most of the times, even though sometimes I think the defense is too lenient, because cases come differently. And cases need to be actually addressed through different angles. There are cases that you got to put in a lot of diplomacy and leniency. But there are cases that you got to be very, very arrogant and, of course, aggressive towards them. And some of these people, that is all they deserve. People who can actually frame other people and lie against them, they deserve nothing if not, the brutal, attitude they got themselves. So it was so pleasing to get Silla pushing Sankari to a point that he confessed that he is the one who said, oh, we need to go to court. That means the DPP did not want them to come to court for no fucking good reason. The DPP just did not want these folks to come to court because the DPP knew everything that these folks said was a lie. And then, now one is using words, and that is why it's important for the defense to go. But the good thing is that it's no longer about going to actually listen to what these people said. And Sankari said, oh yeah, overnight I listened to what I said. So you are forced to listen to yourself. Listen to what you had said against the young man. Keba forolondo. Emalo beto moro ita da sabar la Gambia so ko ita ka Gambia la palasi mara. Nka Jowya jere bar nana man Jowya sifaje ko Adam Barrow could leave the United Democratic Party and turn around to be the most evil person against the United Democratic Party. Look of it jar. Imanda woda fa ko wuli ala to lo fonding tel kay ko ibe wala soronesio e ko ibe wala ni ila sister soronesio fentem fo ite la masa kundala tapale yani mo fani tajirinte ya. Who will fall for that? Let me quickly check what DIG had quickly said.
Police senior management was identified on the grid 02854 Whiskey Echo 925.
Whiskey Echo 925.
If you put this into context, it gives you grocery turntable. This is cell tower. But it's coded as this, and this because it is only us who knows. We do that to ensure that we protect our future operations and incoming operations.
Now, how do you protect your future operations with
this
codes?
Is where that significant amount of telephone traffic was going on, as per the suspect's cell phone. Having said that,
now he said as per the the suspect's cell phone. Remember, the cell phone was already said in court that this person was not actually, with that smartphone that they're talking about. And at the time, they did not know who this person was. They did not know, who actually did this particular act. They did not know the name of the person. They did not know the phone number of the person. How did he get the cell phone number of the person to be able to track? That becomes a fundamental question. Because what the defense need to do now is to go and listen to this video and formulate endless questions from it to come and ask this man on Monday. They don't need to wait to listen to it and then form their questions on the spot. They got to go study this particular material and be able to formulate their questions prior and be able to ask this man. First, if you tell us that you were tracking the phone, tell us the phone number that you were tracking and who was tracking it and why did you start tracking it and how did you know that it was Hussein Wojam before you start tracking it? Because at the time, at that material time, you did not know who actually did the act. You were trying to find out, to investigate, to look around, but all of a sudden you were already tracking a person prior to the incident. So if you know that this person was going to do this and you were tracking him prior to the incident, why did you wait for him to execute the incident? Because prevention would have been better. If you were tracking the person prior and then he has heavy telephone traffic, but up till date you could not tell us who actually he was calling and who his co-conspirators were. So that tells you that everything that the IGSO was saying were just fabricated stories.
Hours later, the same signals were picked up at grid 004 29902 Sierra Zulu and close to latitude 1310. You put this also into perspectives, it gives you between Sifo and Dimbaya. Some moments later, the same signals were picked up at grids 35593 Echo Tango 0441 latitude 1355.
Now, I'm not very familiar about the geography of the Gambia, but of course I know a little bit around it. Now, if you get to Brikama Garage and then you are going to Dar Salami, now the road that goes to Dar Salami, I don't understand if that is the road that goes to Sifo, because Sifo, you connect to Sifo and then you go to where? You go to Gunjur. Kiti, Sifo, Gunjur. Now, this person is using the other route to basically go to Dar Salami, I suppose. So how comes he was actually getting codes or whatever, you know, things from C4 end? But again, when was he getting this? That is on the 12th. But Oceanu was in Brufut on the 12th the whole day and only left Brufut on the 13th. Now, on the 12th, if this guy was getting all of these codes that he's talking about, when he did not even know who actually did this act, where was he getting these codes from? And who was the scientist within the Gambia police force who was getting the codes? Because we know directly that it cannot be the DIG himself who is managing and of course, you know, trying to connect to people's calls or listening to people's calls and trying to know who has heavy telephone traffic. No. He is a senior administrator, deputy, you know, IGP. So it must be a junior officer who might be responsible for that. Who is the officer responsible for getting these grid codes, and how did the person actually get Hussein Uboja? Did that person come to court to testify that, of course, these were the codes, that I was the one generating them and I was able to track this person? No. That means everything that they said were complete fabrications and lies. And that is why he said he cannot present some of these things in court for security reasons. There is no security threat on this matter. The whole thing is that if it were true that you were tracking Hussein Uboja, we will be very happy to bring those documents, because those documents should be supporting evidences to prove the case for the state. But of course, we know the state is, in this case, the perpetrator.
That is the edge of the Gambian border into Casamas. So that means from this point here, the suspect has been moving. And as a result of that, finally, his location was detected into Senegalese territory, and that's where the telephone signals went dead. This is what we know, and it's a fact.
It's a fact.
Because grid references...
So if there are facts, you need to bring the facts to court.
I think we have very few people who can measure grid references, because they are coded internationally. They are used by militaries, security services across the globe. So, by 17 to 1800, you receive the first signal of his presence in the direction of Sierra Yeli, or we say Sierra Yankee, at the Senegalese border, 10 to 15 kilometers approximation of the Gambia-Casamas border, indicating a signal of somebody who is present there and who is most likely suspect.
Okay. Now, who is most likely the suspect? That tells us that at this time they did not know the suspect, so they're trying to, locate the suspect. But this suspect was never in any way, in a video camera where they could tell, oh, this is the person, so that is his number, that is his name, then you could quickly tap into his phone and start tracking him. At this material time, they did not know at all who this particular person was. Who did the act was not known. How were the police tracking Hussein Uboja? I don't know you. I don't know your name. I don't even know who did the act, but I'm tracking you. And enough on that 1 year daughterless, you wouldn't believe it.
Protocols were applied. Most of you here are aware that there's a 5-kilometer radius outpost between the two countries. I invoked that outpost through the Minister of Interior. I don't know where he has called, but before even, when the telephone comes, I put up an Amada. Within 10 minutes, they were on the borderline of this 1355 grid reference, ready to enter. The protocols were worked on, and within 20 minutes, they were on site. Somebody that we did not identify at the time was handed over to us.
Great. Somebody we did not identify at the time was handed over to us. But you told us that you were tracking this somebody who was never identified to you. How did you know this somebody? How did you identify the person? How did you know the person's number? How? And then you still went on to tell us that somebody who was not known to us at the time was handed over to us. But you equally told us that you were tracking this particular person prior to the incident and after the incident from one location to another using grid references. But you never know and then do not know at all who this person was. How is that possible? They are not intelligent. They don't use common sense. But because they don't even know how to do little banditries, They are just common criminals who do not even know how to operate. That somebody who was unknown to you at all, how were you able to track this person? You might say we did not see the person, but of course somebody was identified to us, and then we start tracking this particular person. And when we got this person, it became the exact suspect that we were tracking. But he said somebody who was not known to you at all. But then you already told us that you were tracking somebody from one point to another. How did you start tracking? Who told you that this person is the one doing that? Who told you this is the person who actually, committed this particular crime? How did you know his number before you start tracking it? Amansodo, abemo faniality.
Purportedly being the suspect, we did not confirm whether it was the suspect or not at the time. But true to his own confessions, we connected the dots, and we suspected that is the very suspect that we are looking for. So in that 30 hours now, so far we have significant leads that direct the direction where he is totally implicated, and the weapon used from his own mouth, that he has been possessing a weapon for a very long time, and indeed this said weapon was with him. The Thursday that court sitting was in Banjul. Purportedly being the suspect.
I'm going to repeat that part again because he had denied saying any of this in court.
But true to his own confessions, we connected the dots, and we suspected that is the very suspect that we are looking for. So in that 30 hours now, so far we have significant leads that direct the direction where he is totally implicated, and the weapon used from his own mouth, that he has been possessing a weapon for a very long time, and indeed this said weapon was with him. The Thursday that court sitting was in Banjul.
Good. Smartly enough, he did not mention the United Democratic Party. He said, due to Usenu's own confession, that he acquired this weapon from a long time, and he was with the weapon in that court sitting on that Thursday in Banjul. That particular Thursday he's referring to was the Thursday that Yankuba Dabo's kid was mentioned in court, and then he was there with the UDP militants. So what exactly is this man trying to tell us? That the United Democratic Party kind of got this person, and they were the person who masterminded the killing of the cops. That is in short what he's trying to tell us. You don't need rocket science to understand the basics around that. You don't need to basically think twice to understand what exactly this man is trying to say. And evidently when he tried to deny in court that, oh yeah, I did not say that, or I never said that, or I never said, gun, you said the weapon used, and we were told that the weapon used is a gun. So if the defense told you the gun, and then you tell us, no, I did not mention gun, they are not telling you directly, they are not quoting you, they are telling you from a paraphrasal point of view that this is what you said. So if you say I did not mention a gun, that is why the defense decided that bring his entire video clip and play it, let him listen to himself. But he said he never said that the person was with a gun, and at that court case in Banjul. But who was in that court case? It was the UDP. Again, you said he acquired the weapon from a long time, and then you came to court and said you never said that. So wala nyente ko nyemimbe fo nyim fondin ke ma be mo fanyani tilimbalialet, that human beings in our own country, in our own backyard, could just sit around, kill other people who did no wrong. If you look at Sanjay Gomez, and of course you look at Pate Jallo and Sijao, these are people who had just completed their police training, with a lot of energy, thinking that we are going to serve our country. We are going to do what it takes. We know how it is to be a police officer in the Gambia. But of course, desire and love for your country, these folks opted for it. And they did so with a lot of, energy. Just to be posted at a particular location simply because my name is Pate Jallo, and a political party who are major rivals of the president are complaining about a senior Pate Jallo in the police force. I have to die so that they can actually kill that political party. What is as disgusting as that? Yet the people who sent me to go and stand there, the leadership of the institution that should protect me, actually sent me there to be killed and then turn around to lie against other people on my death. And still come out to go to my funeral and act like, oh yeah, we are very sorry, when they actually masterminded it. It's just like the AFPRC and Koro Sise. What is the difference? If you tell us that the AFPRC regime was brutal, now connect the dots and of course do a comparative analysis of Koro's death and of course the death of these young police officers, that they even had the guts to go and celebrate those people's 1-year memorial. This is what I don't get. At the end of the day, and the funny thing is, when this incident happened, the first people to talk about were advisors to the president who came out, including Lamin Kesedi. We got to a time that we got to mention your names. Some of them are close associates, but probably not anymore, because we are not going to watch people in our country do this kind of nonsense and then go away with it. Never. That you started to say, okay, it's the UDP. You people already, from your preconceived notion and of course the architects of this particular crime, knew what they wanted. And that is why I got a friend who was working at the Gambia prison police, told us that when this particular incident was mentioned there, some of the people within were saying, oh, now we got them, now we got the UDP. My point is not even about the UDP. You cannot lie against Usainu Bojang and say all this kind of things shamelessly, and then you come to court and want to defend yourself by saying, I did not say it, or I did not use this specific word. What is the difference between gun and weapon? Now, what is the type of weapon we talked about? Of course, your ballistic examiner told us that it was a pistol. And then you said the word weapon. Of course, the National Security Advisor said firearm. And then your ballistic examination said a pistol. And as well, one of your witnesses in court said he picked the pistol on the day of the incident. But then you told a journalist here who was trying to ask you about the firearm that was used, he said, we never talked about the recovery of a firearm. And then you can see the agitation and the anger and of course the restlessness in you that already tells from a psychological point of view that some guilt were in you. You people cannot escape with this. There is no way you can escape with it. We are no longer talking about Usainu's innocence. Now that the prosecution is now in the box, in a way that you are being looked at as the potential perpetrators of this crime. And of course, with all your lies and fabrications coming to light globally, what else can you tell the Gambian people? And then you people trying to say, oh no, we are not going to court, we are going to appeal. And somebody within you would have to tell the office of the president, and no, we are going to court. That tells you that, of course, the entire government machinery is shaking. And we told you this government will crumble and it will fail. Because voting for a regime like this is not even about political choices. It will equate to disrespect to the nation, lack of respect for democratic principles, lack of respect and desire for strong institutions, because the fact of the matter is that 10 years should be enough. That is basically why I often refer to this, coalition for change and of course the new Gambia, as some of you call it. The strength of the new Gambia lies in its vagueness. Because at the time, all of these people know what they wanted deep down in their hearts. Because what they do is, what the chameleon face they saw you out there is not their real identity. They are so power hungry. They are so much into self-perpetuation, and they don't care about democratic principles and of course respect for the rule of law. They are so much into, framing people and then taking them to court to prosecute and of course incarcerate them on false allegations. Because that is the system they are used to, and that is what they continued, because some of these folks have been in the police force since the days of gendarmerie, and all they know is to lie, to fabricate, to frame, and of course to incarcerate people on false pretense. That is why a lot of people were killed by the former regime, because of the likes of this man. Because if this man had the guts to lie against this young man like this, imagine if somebody had done that in the past regime. I personally faced that with some folks who live in America over here. That is why I'm normally my dara. Boy, you saw yini. One thing I believe in is you don't give anything to a bully. The bully deserves his own lifestyle. Respect people who respect you, but of course don't actually give anything to a bully. Don't give anything to a bully. But let's put it into context. Ami Bojang, a lactating mother with multiple children, a married woman in a different community where her parents are not, her siblings are not. She only went there as a married woman, have little kids, not a successful woman in any way, a normal Gambian woman. All of a sudden, the government that is supposed to protect you, framed your brother, and put both of you in jail. When they investigated, they realized that everything we got these people for is not true. They did not stop there, but they went on to look for witnesses to actually cajole them and lie to them to come so that they can come and lie against you in court, so that they can have a way to escape from their own committed crimes, and then incarcerate you for almost 2 years. Your little baby is out there, nobody to probably breastfeed your little baby. And of course, your kids got to go to school, nobody to take care of them. Either they go to school, they go to bed, they eat, or they don't care about it. And then they want to tell us that the entire country got to be quiet about that. These are the kind of acts that governments do or people with evil intentions do to destroy families generationally. Abulumadung, asimadung, alme mira fanko wandi dingola ngamang hane kuoku kala. Atolko, we investigated you. Of course, it's very normal that you first got Usain Bojang. I have no problems with that. It's very normal that you first got Ami Bojang. I have no problem with that. But after investigating and, of course, going through Usain's phone, before you even formatted the phone, you knew that he did nothing wrong. You knew that he was not the perpetrator of this particular crime. You knew very well that these folks have nothing to do with this crime. But what did you do? You went out extra mile to look for people against these people for nothing. Like innocent people, you went to look for people to come and lie against them. That a government that is expected to protect its citizens and, of course, ensure that there is justice, accountability, and transparency in every sphere of human development went ahead to destroy its own citizens. And, of course, this is generational destruction because you do not understand the mental trauma you have actually inflicted on this family and not just the two individuals in court, because you do not know how this have actually infiltrated their families, their siblings, and their children, and of course even their friends and associates. How will people be looking at Ami's children at school? How will they be looking at them in the community? How will people of my own community be looking at this family? And that is why not a lot of people are standing by them, but that is who we are in our societies, and that does not bother me. Man lena rek la gum si aduna de luma gum lulu gum na ko baddi lu fay xew rek na xew. I'm not related by blood to Usainu Bojang. Of course, we went to school together. I know him. He's a homie from the hood. I could choose to shut up and mind my business. But why would I? What is the essence of having a conscience when your own brother? If this happened to me, why would I expect somebody to be silent? But evidently, I know that even the community that I come from, if this happened to me, most of them will be silent. So that is why when people look around, when you're putting your resources into communities, know where to put it. Because at the end of the day, none of those people will look back and say, you know what, we know this homie, we grow up with him, and he is not a rebel, because they wouldn't care about you. Of course, a few people do, and we respect the folks who do, because the fact of the matter is that you will still have, when you look back, you will still see a couple of people who will still stand with you. This is not a homie very close to me now. Of course, close to my family, and of course, my other, cousins and all of that, yes, but not me personally. Of course, we know each other. We did a couple of things together growing up as kids, but later on, everybody got to do their own thing. I could shut up and do whatever I got to do. It is really nothing whatsoever. It's not adding anything to me. It's not reducing anything to me. But what is the essence of knowing something when you cannot defend your own community? What is the essence of life when you cannot stand and defend the truth of your own community? What is the essence of your existence if you cannot say, you know what, this is not true, and this is where the truth is? But this is who we are, because we are self-protectionist, and we think that, of course, we got to depend on government to ensure that, we continue to live. That is not me. I don't care about government. Besides, I never work for government, so I don't need a government job. I thank God for that. But even whereas you need something from somebody, that does not dispel the fact that you got to lie to get that. You got to defend the truth. I had nothing against this government. What for? Most of the folks in this government, including ministers, ambassadors, and all, these are people that I know and are close associates. While then I come nangode, but meti kay mo manduma faral ken si ay fen. Mawo mo fon je ñun dunya fon kon. Minna kubat nando ke defend fanyalaka. There are two things possible. If I see what you're doing, I don't like it, I just showed up on my business. But you cannot bring this kind of evil acts to our communities and you expect everybody to be quiet about it. What kind of pain are you inflicting on this family? And the president watching as if he does not know what is happening. Yo, Adama Barrow, yo, yo, dinga nanguli. If somebody pick your wife and did this kind of thing to her, would you like it? You DIG, so if somebody picks your wife and lie against her like that, I mean, Bojack is another man's wife. If somebody did that to you, will your children like it? Ami Bojang is a parent to other children in that country. If somebody pick your son and do that to him, we say no, Bojang is a son to another person, a brother to another person, friends to other people. Why you lolan def tegulen ko sidara su ay feni kese? And then that is what you don't want to be told. We will tell you that and we will oppose your regime to its knees. Because yen kan molen wara votal sa. Can si Gambia when you can kill people and lie like this? This government is built on lies, deceit. No, you know, it's lesser evil. There is nothing like lesser evil. If you believe in democratic institutions, you believe in the principle, of justice, you believe in, doing the right thing, there is no way we can have a president beyond 10 years. There is no way that this country can continue on this path, because if we change that from the former regime, why should we continue it in this other regime? Then why did we change in the first place? Then it was out of envy and jealousy against Yahya Jammeh, then if that is the case. Because you cannot tell me that, oh no, we cannot have one man ruling for 22 years. Now we want to have a man who wants to rule for 15 years. He started killing people. These folks went to Faraba and of course killed 3 people simply because they wanted to deliberately give, women guarding to a single mining company who is a private individual to go and mine, destroy those ecosystems, and of course subject and inject hunger on these families in Faraba Banta. They went ahead to, arrest and, of course, incarcerate young people in Gunjur simply for speaking against their fish meal factories that are causing serious ecological disruption in our communities. And, of course, exploiting our natural resources beyond, imaginable rates. I follow Windolu. When Jammeh was president, he actually monopolized our mining industry and gave it to his family. What did this government do? They, of course, monopolized our entire mining industry to people who are funders and close associates of the president. So what is the difference? The people who are controlling the mining industry in the Gambia are close associates and major funders of the NPP. What is the difference? The people who are supplying heavy fuel into the Gambia are people who are giving money and vehicles and, of course, strong supporters and, of course, funders of the NPP. What is the difference? The people that are destroying our ecosystems are basically bedfellows of the presidency. And do you know even the timber trade, the letters and all the documents and the approvals come from the Ministry of Environment and the Office of the President? We'll get to a time that I will start calling your name, some of these permanent secretaries. The Gambian economy is worse off than anybody can ever imagine. Imagine monopolizing the entire cement industry. Jawel does not produce any cement. Jawel buys cement like any other person and come and put it in bags and sell it to Gambians. Of course, why would you monopolize the sector that one person does not have the capacity to supply everybody? But of course, when they have a problem, like the entire country has a problem. Who does that? Those kind of monopolies? What kind of economic thinking is that? But simply because these are the major funders of the government. But what did you do? Even most of Jammeh's assets, whom did you sell them to? To Jawel, all these borehole pumps, them start farming. But Jammeh was involved in a lot of farming activities. You went to pick all of his assets and sell them to Jawel so that he can go and start farming there, because these are the major players within the NPP government. Why send Banyel towards the UDP was the only reason that you had to kill the cops, because Barrow clearly told us that the UDP was a major problem for him. And that is why you had to kill these young people. They are their only crime is to wear the police uniform, and of course sung by the fact that he was with Party, and Party for the sake that his name is Party, and of course the UDP was complaining about Party. A Party had to die by all means, and of course they know they will not kill the senior Party, as notorious as that guy is. Go. None of these people can do nothing to anybody. All of these folks are just ordinary human beings. They leave their houses to wear just ordinary uniform. They have no specialized training. They know nothing more than anybody. Left, right. Police And then you are not just killing ordinary people, you are killing your own people. That is cannibalism. The cannibalistic act within the police force got to stop. Atol mandang nyo subu domo la kanyo tinya katunyo kelela drong, but you went to a point that you can even kill for the regime, and you don't want anybody to say that. Wanne muso na adin wala man hani kukalla. Alman balafano fuaro nindo bale. Atol man kuke no wale. You know? Atol ko mole janko mane bodo betala 700 ngal al dafra fulal cement bodo. Al ko kadu cement bodo sambi wo fudala wot. Atol buka mol min balundi atol man kuno wali you investigated these people, ali wal investigate fa ko italla ko nyini bulu man du si medu man fengo feng al tara mol nyini nampul wali na wuliya la wal kam pura atol wol soronno sa ali min be fe kala na fo kidi bu al ga ko hande ma fote ne ma fote ke baba ke londi ke foro londi ka fo ma fote nga foten. Imagine ke la video fo play ka fo ko moro illa mo yetele afo mo be sirin ka ke jibe min be fo ke murundi fangalo fo ko mo kan kana fo ko ke foro londa kan ko yetele nyim fo yala mun dalilla kam. What kind of a life is that? What kind of institutions do we have in this country? If the police can go to this level, none of the families in the Gambia is safe, because they can come and kill you and turn around and say your next brother did so. Lolo molbe mol fala Gambia ba fala mole suicide mo to Gambia suicide lo. The social cohesion in the Gambia does not put our mentalities on suicide. Of course, once in a while, some of those things could happen, but they cannot be at the frequency in which they are happening now. Something is fundamentally wrong in society. And those are the things we got to address. So isa wal joya nyaaw ye joya nyaaw manjar ye mol fa pour kata wal tokuya. Where would be Adam Baro a quarantine, a Daraja Taylor, a Fahamur Taylor, a Dunia Lon Taylor? What you think out of nowhere you became president? If it is not for the United Democratic Party that stood tooth and nail at the other mia, wala mutonyati, ni wala maloite ke kudi tata kela fenti. Bita murunta ide ko wala dado joya mandanke dado joya fede ka mol ilama sakunda ka mol fa pur ka wala tumi wala. Ita ko italo masa kunda nyanda continue la Gambia bela nyanda wula kata nditalo masa kunda found they should basically kick you out of office by the end of your this term, because you do not deserve anything further than that. Pogi se nyana nana no it's lesser evil nyale dugana fi gen na fal amud dara Gambia lufa wara amwene the opposition including the UDP. That is why I like what Dabo said. Some folks they were like, no imandra UDP wale kane dake je kana you know what? Because these are politicians in our country, and then we care about the future of our country, and we recognize that the United Democratic Party is a formidable force. Therefore, whatever happens within their internal political party, it's our business, because at the end of the day, if they come to power, they are not ruling just the United Democratic Party, but the Gambia at large. Therefore, if we put our mouths there, it is our business. We don't need to put our money there for it to be our business, because if you want to rule us, then you must really accept our criticisms when they come out. Because na duda neighbor katrenyina ni konya ko edati je wora ni be katrenyina la kananda keje. That is why some of you got to think and reason. The leadership thinks and it reasons, because some of you riffraffs online who be busy insulting people, it doesn't make any sense. Think, because you are not helping in any way. It's better to look for an all-inclusive government against this disgusting regime than trying to say, oh, we are looking for our own, exclusive government. It will not work. It's better to come together. We are better together than all of these, it doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is basically allowing divergent opinions to come to your party, because if the focus is on there, because people recognize that, of course, that's a formidable force, that if we all support in one way or another, that is why people want a responsible leadership within that political party, so that we do not have this regime continuing, because this regime is as worse than what nobody can imagine. So don't tell people you're not in a party, don't talk about it. It is our business, because when it comes to voting, you will still come to those people you are telling that, oh, no, it's not your business. Then they will also turn around and tell you it's not our business to vote for you. So think, politics, you got to use your mind. Daji kanta ya mona fa fenna. Altogether, we basically know that anambaro inyilla nyimmo fa fa ngara ngara whom were they after? It was Bayo Songo, Mamodu Sabale ni mo kotongo wala ko Babu Jeng Pate Jalom Benjola la Moltola Nimbenjola is going to be nasty. And they wanted to use those words from those people to kill another party, Jallo, and frame the UDP. That is why when that killing happened, what did they do? Look at their first reactions. They arrested Mamadou Sabali, arrested by Osonko Nimo Kotangolitata Olmuta. But Kabiriko, this is the person who wore the hoodie at the Yankuba Dabo's court case. Already they are trying to associate it to the United Democratic Party. But of course, look at the name that is killed, Pate Jallo. Who was the UDP complaining about? Another Pate Jallo. So you cannot tell me that both of those things are coincidence. And on top of it, you fabricated a script to say that the person who killed this person was basically at the Yankuba Dabo case. It was in that case that, you know, Pate Jallo and Babu Jeng were brutalizing the members of the United Democratic Party. And that is why they came out to actually vehemently say, Pate Jallo, you know, we are going after you and of course we will revenge. And that is why they had to kill another party and made it look like it's a coincidence or a mistaken identity. No. Atoluma nyameng alamanta poleano because alkumalbuka work. You thought you were playing, you were actually, you know, playing tricks, not understanding that from afar, when you look at it, you can, you know, first, let me tell you one thing. When they said Hussein Obojan killed the cops, I was like, don't go konyokang, you know, cool, you know, life, people get to a level, things could happen. I never said he didn't. I never said he did. I was like, you know what, homie, you couldn't do that, man. But when I listen to Sankari, look, some of us are not stupid. Even whereas we are stupid, our stupidity did not get to that level that somebody could just put, you can connect basic dots and understand. Okay, who is killed? Pate Jallo. UDP was complaining about Pate Jallo. The person who killed them was at the UDP court case in Banjul. It was in that case that Pate Jallo was mentioned that he was brutalizing the UDP. Okay, who was involved in that case? Yankuba Dabo. Or this person who killed them works in Brikama Area Council. What exactly were they trying to tell us? To a common mind, to a common thinker, to a person who have eyes and can see. Wale atina tilimbaliani intapale ya mamuna fafenda nalbe mulla banko marala mul marani tonyani tilongo kanna adolta falo ko yaja meka mo fala kale muru alka mulufa alka badra ya tilimulla albe mulla dulal tinyala, you know, albe mulla bungol boyla albe ke boy dalila kana manke, you know, tilimbaliani tajinte yade. What exactly is the purpose? Atol katol nara tonyala tamani to la banko ka. You go to Salaji, mol mini alonko, mama woro lolo belare ndami, tami la dulal minti, atole bala satil to dula kodangol to ale nanang, kamola dulal table ka busibul ka alfongol la bunjangol loja, albuka lo kod la mi alnama ke batala kodo daka misunya mola manzakunda, ale na boda alko wandi mol mini alonko, fongol la sate kon, ali olke luntangol nim bayol ti fongol la sate kon, alko mole singande oka. You are a regionalist, but I think it's high time that the people of Combo rise against this government because the level of land dispossession and of course, kamula mul tilimbalia tajindian, battery kono wanyanta danala sila. Also burfod ni coastal communities dandanal satio. Imagine alko ya jamento la bankol mimbeta burfod house atoli obe recover ali recover ali kenyadi ali atalato la minister da matim atola baraka dantolti atola bara furu dantolti. When the paramilitary and Tafanjai, Tafukana Burfurka, Mola Kebarangola Bute, then we were very young. We were watching this guy, beating our old folks. And then atol kunun dinu atole murna bawa palaso battle bul atole na wala bankol atole wotala atol da maltem albungol lo jali ajibe. Nali amira la masa kundabe tulala neta ban albunjangol lo jali ajibe. Tumbe silam bala bunjangol la mudala ngabe jani ngalbe bay mola sate kon ale ajibe mimba kala because we got to a point with you people that we got to be clear and it's got to be rough because this government cannot continue to actually hold Gambians hostage. Ngo nali amra mo screw lete mbakela screw driver lete nali on screw ngam fa on screw. The Gambians will not accept any kind of regime like that anymore. Ya jamento la bankol tambul kanna ke barungol bute tafanja ina ta dula ba loje akata ta ko di baso do jen mi yalon ko abama mbobur fuda fama mbobur fud amama worowlo mbobur fud yeb sade mol la dulal table tilimbali yani tajin te akan ya jamela sembe jayo mol kan ke bute ka tilimbali yakel atoli o beta al murunda al kale dula dol recover atol murunda ko ngal ko si yalla minister da malte fado la minister juma la boda burfud minister juma la bana fa boda burfud. Minister Jumale rights to come and see a land that belongs to the natives of Brufut. And even whereas you seized it and you don't want to return it back to the community, it must be put into national use. It cannot be shared among ministers. For long, Jumalti. That you take people's land and share it among yourself when you are there to come and ensure that there is justice in the Gambia. Land resource management in the country is the most terrible thing, and the lands department, including all those folks within some of those, physical planning, tapalen in Tilimbalo mantambi wala. It's just like when they took Brufut Heights and other parts, and Kubaturi and other people were selling it. And they were selling it in dollars. Kabrufurungola land table ke waf in dollars, and they said they were going to put the money in government. I don't know if they ever did that. But you people came and seized those plots that were shared among some people and then reshared it among yourselves. So at all new Walmuna at all fata. What is the difference? You know, we cannot speak for ourselves. We will defend our community to the letter. So that's why sometimes when I look at people supporting Barrow in the community, you can't say nothing. You got to just watch and say, people have their choices. They are, they're entitled to their choices. But it's also right time for us to communicate to the young people to understand that this cannot continue. And that is why when I look at TAF, sometimes to say, no, me, I have all my documents. If they won't let them go to court, look at that mentality. Yahya Jammeh was the president. He was in charge of the entire government. He seized our lands. Who would you think would go and tell Yahya Jammeh, Minister of Lands, who will tell Yahya Jammeh, no, I will not give you documents to that particular land? Having the documents is not what matters, but how you acquire the documents. Do you buy the land? No. Do you own the land? No. Why? How did you acquire the land? Who gave you the documents? How did they give you the documents? Everything was done fraudulently. I don't care how much money you people have. At the end of the day, you don't put no food on my table. You did not pay my fees to go to school. We are all enough to speak and defend our community. And then if somebody fraudulently comes out and says, oh, I got all my documents right. How did you get those documents? You get the documents through fraud because you were maltreating our people, beating them, and of course, abusing their rights, and of course, taking their lands forcefully. And what did you do? You bring in the paramilitary to militarize our communities and, of course, inject fear and seize their lands and, of course, destroy their properties so that you can build on it and sell and then make money and look like you are a rich man. Blood money. And I'm no, you know what? I got all my documents. Of course, at the time, you will get all your documents. Yeah, Jammeh got all the documents of the lands that were seized from him, didn't he? Why did you seize it if it is about documents? But how did you acquire it? Yeah, some how did you get the documents? How did you get the documents? For Kamola Pabirungo Bute, Tilimbalian in Tajindia, Karemol Aleka Kaito, the Dal family from the lands, because which minister will tell you, no, I will not give you documents? But does that mean that you acquired it through the right means? No. It was through fraud and, of course, deliberate dispossession of our people. That is why I always refer to this, TDA as, a land dispossession mechanism against the people of Combo. And that is why Combo's got to rise against all this nonsense that is happening in our communities. If you want TDA, take it to your communities. Most of you, where are you from? Most of these people in government, where are they from? That's about regional characterization. But we got to get to that level to tell people, because now you said we say no from our own community, alcohol police will fall si fa be lakang atra to nyati altara witness on yin na purwole naka wulia la wakang. Almanda wala you went to Ghana town and then you said you are going to even retrieve the documents from those people, the nationality that some of them got. You said you are going to retrieve it because they are not Gambians. Atole Gambian dinkayata tambitawal. Are you more Gambian than those people? People who have been in this country since in the 50s. But the fact is, let's look at what happens in our government system. That is why Gambia need a complete reset. And people will get into politics and we will actually tell you the truth and we will ensure that those changes happen. Because the fact of the matter is that these folks live in the Gambia for the last 60, 70 years. Some of them were born and raised. Of course, their parents and grandparents might have come, but in the Gambia, whose parents or grandparents did not come? Tumala fire Gambia law. Of course, but how can you even tell that people who were born and raised that they are not Gambian? We need to look into citizenship issues in that country. And then you look at it, Gambia, some of us went to school with some of these, descendants of the Ghanaian descendants in the Gambia. We were born together, we were raised together, we went to the same schools. You will never see any of them working in a Gambia government institution. Are they not Gambian? Even those who have Gambian nationality, Ghanaian descendant working in the Gambia government. But of course, Gambia in America, when they got papers, you are so happy and you clap, you are rejoiced because they will help your families. But Atoka model Bali, Alka Tilimbalian in Tajintia Tili, wala Falco, wala Dinu, Bute, Kadu, no, Fela Bungo, Fela Jonkon, Battery Alatambita. But then when it is time for election, I am personally probably guilty of that. We will go to the same Ghana town and tell them to vote for certain kind of people. But when they are actually crying out loud for some of these things and injustices meted on them by the government of the Gambia, we all will be silent because nobody's there to talk for them. The people of Brufut got to start to speak and defend your own community. You cannot continue to be silent. And then most of the times I try to avoid talking about my community. But it's high time that we actually look inwardly and, of course, address some of these issues because we cannot continue to allow government to come. Land beta Gach went and mine on our riverbank, take all that they got to take, and then the community benefited nothing from it. They took our land and named it Tanje Bird Reserve. There is nothing like Tanje Bird Reserve. That belongs to Brufut entirely. Not even a fraction of it belongs to Tanje. Why would you name it Tanje Bird Reserve? Because their people in authority have no sense at all. Imanda wala mola lanil miyaja me mola lanil minta itole murun ko nge yotalai da malatima batara yala tambita wala. And they did not stop at that. Tafanjai, who took all our lands, is bragging that, oh, he got them rightly. He got all his papers. When some of us witnessed it, when he actually and the paramilitary came and brutalizing our people. You will take the land and do whatever with it because we don't have a serious government that is about transparency and justice. Because even the president takes lands that do not belong to him because they are only there to do what pleases them. We will talk about it and then you will hear it. Ngo. Isa ko ndara karla ko rabaran kamin fo ibo moylal ani tulo sukita leba moylal adiara wala fo eta tulo bete de kana ko moy ko denga yala ni wokera wala mo masa kunda marala ni masa kunda jawo ni masa kunda ko na maje masa kunda min kam mol faye murun ko denga ko ka wuliya la e kata molle nyini nam pour wole na wuliya fo ka wuliya la modol kan ka ko wolle oge and then everybody want to be quiet in our country and we think that oh the government is going in the right way. It's not. This government was basically to come and bring in reforms. What reforms have they achieved? TRRC, President Konyako Isafal was doing politics there. And we know they were doing politics there because they cannot bring Masane Kinte as the first person to testify. Masane Kinte was made, chief of defense staff while he was still in studies in the UK. Yeah, Jame made him, chief of defense staff while he was not even in the Gambia. He came to the Gambia. He served in that capacity for almost 4 years or more. Within that period, people were killed and brutalized in the Gambia. You cannot bring that man to the TRRC and make him to talk on a doctored voice and, of course, in camera. You think people don't know? Masane Kinta was core in Jammeh's regime. If it is not your tribal sentiments and tribalism injected in you, you wouldn't do that. Why did you bring Babukar Jatta to come and clearly sit down and then talk to him? Why didn't you bring Masane Kinte to sit and talk to him? When they were killing Gambian people, Masane Kinte was basically IGP, chief of defense staff. And you want to tell us, oh no, they are, these people are and they did. Of course, you did a lot of good because some of the things we never know, we came to know about them. But of course, you did a lot of terrible underground things that if people have to expose, then your credibility will be put to nothing. But already the president put your credibility to nothing because he clearly told us that Isafal was playing politics there. That means it was not about establishing truth. It was about politics. If the president could discredit the TRRC, who is there to give it credit? And he is the person who instituted it. But the CRC, because you cannot have all those top lawyers. You see, we blame Jammeh a lot, but sometimes he's even better than these people if you put aside his human rights records. You know why I said so? The 1997 Constitution, the reason why they have the threshold for presidency at high school is because at the time, the Gambia does not have a university. Therefore, you cannot say that you need a first degree to qualify as a presidential candidate because the country did not have a university. When the country has its first university, it was very normal and reasonably sensible to ensure that the threshold to be president should be at least bare minimum a first degree. But you will not do that because you're trying to favor this lunatic who knows nothing and cannot bring anything for the country. In this modern age and time, that we can actually be this backward as a country, that people can sit and develop a constitution for us and then still peg us at high school, that you can go and pass only arts and craft and be a president in the Gambia. That you can even have a questionable high school certificate and you still be a president in the Gambia. bankol kata nyamin dunia ka fenke nyamin yuruwaning fahamro ka nyamin kul ka fali wala nyamin, but Gambia remains stagnant at that same position that, oh yeah, you just need a high school. It does not even tell you what you need from high school. You just need a high school. Have one pass from high school, you're good to be a president in the country. How are you going to govern our people? That is why when you go internationally, nobody respects the Gambia, because nothing of substance come out of our people, including ministers. Some of us have had the opportunity whatsoever, we thank God, to travel around the world with some of these ministers. But simply because they are relatives to the president or they are close associates and political surrogates of the president, they are giving positions out of nothing. Of course, there are a few exceptionally good people within government, and we still got to give credit to that. And some of those people knew that they, of course, doing their best for the country. But predominantly, what is in there? How do you expect? Boy. Wala ka sade represent, but sade be ka mimbo we sade represent la no nyadi al ko sade victory so dala. Does that make any sense? Look at it regionally. Compare all presidents within Africa. Where does your president stand? And then you went ahead to develop a constitution to say that, oh, you need just high school. What exactly about high school? But you are trying to please this particular person. But that is why they had to trash it. CRC, they trusted, and they are the one that instituted it. And they said that was one of their key things to achieve. Did they achieve it? Nothing. TRRC F9, CRC F9. We don't have a constitution to date because they don't care about a constitution, because all they care about is self-perpetuation and continue to rule and, of course, loot our resources. The little resources this country gets is just a few people, the criminal cabal, that are sharing it among themselves without regard to what is right. And then we want to tell us that we got to be quiet, that we got to watch our country sink the way it is sinking, that a bag of rice is almost 2,500, a bag of cement getting to 600-700. What exactly are we doing as a country? We all sit and think that everything is normal, that we are producing nothing, we are selling nothing, we are all just parasitic on the rest of the globe, that our country and economy is run by aids and grants, that we are just reduced to just ordinary beggars, that everything that you got to do is all about projects and little projects that people are looking. That is why America is stopping all these aids, and then people are crying. Civil society is crying, and of course government institutions are crying. But let's even talk about even the Ministry of Health, who was giving a 10 million more than 10 million. And the reason why they had to do that, because World Bank told them to pay the money. So ni World Bank na for local in kodo jo enen rol sambala court tilimbali ala tambiro la ro ko masa kundala ben tolla banko ka minka police wol faka wuliya la modo ka ina muri ke forolo ni court ko ita to nyafola ka vo mole ko ha ngafote ne mafote wala mtu nyati. Let's put our differences aside and look at the common interest of our country, because the trend is so bad that if we any other term for this government is the end of this country, where would we go? For 8 good years, 8 solid years, our security is in the hands of the foreign military, Senegalese military. Our immediate neighbors are the ones in our state house. Everything about our intelligence is in their hands. Where are we, and how are we called a sovereign nation when our intelligence is in the hands of another country, our next door neighbor? Now they can close the border, and then we all will have nowhere to go, if not to get into the Atlantic Ocean and all die there, because we don't have a visionary leadership. That 8 good years, 8 solid years, you don't trust the Gambian army, that people don't even have uniforms to wear in the army, and then you can just jump and then keep the Senegalese and then militarize Fonyi and then go there to remove even borehole pumps so that you can inject poverty and hunger on those people, and then you don't want anybody to say that. But of course, the Senegalese are in charge of our intel and everything that has to do with our country. And then some of you would think, oh, Jomai and Songo, come and remove those people. They will not remove them, because that is in the greater interest of Senegal, because the Gambia will pay its soldiers and creating employment for its own people. And of course, they are getting every intelligence from the Gambia. Everything that has to do with the Gambia is now in the hands of Senegal. Therefore, Senegal kind of alienated in a way or another. The Gambia is in charge of the Gambia. That they could put Senegalese military towards the Casamas end so that they can, militarize Fonyi and stop all the timber trade that is run and masterminded by the government of the Gambia. Senegal has a mission under a mission. The first mission is, of course, we are there to protect their president, and only to protect their president, not the citizenry. And that is why every day Mulbe Mulfala Gambia, because our own military have folded their hands and they are doing nothing, and they can't do nothing because they have been disarmed for 8 good years because the president does not trust them. And this is how we want our country to continue. If this guy win for 15 years, the Gambian military will be disarmed for 15 years. What Alta like AK-47 will be fine. 15 years, it's just like your vehicle. You have to learn for Sanjay for killing for the You say, they say, oh no, these are sensitive. It's not sensitive. We got to tell the truth to the leadership of our country that is enough. That all of a sudden the Nigerian contingent, Molmi Mamboko Haram Bano, the Fala Sade, Kelobe, Dola Sade, Olmo Fengano, Keletan Tolia, Fentan Tolia, Masakunda, Kuruma Membeje, Dankodro, Koito, Silata, Sojaro, Lekohani, Molena peace. What peace are they keeping? Who is that loggerhead in the Gambia? Jumala Ninjuma Benyola Gambia, mi Alanko Banko, mi Alanko Mobe Dental in one way or another. Who will fight who in the Gambia? Nobody. But because if you think you are doing right, you will never actually opt to keep those folks for 8 good years. But because you know what is happening. Within your first 5 years, you have over 200 million. Oh, baro yo kula wane yo balangane ka president $5 million is oko gene sa wenkai. It's practically possibly impossible. But all of a sudden you have over 200 million. Within those first 5 years, you were able to build mansions in Mankamankunda and different places. You want to tell us that, oh yeah, you are better than Yaya Jammeh, probably on human, but even that human rights, you started killing people, killing police officers, just like the military regime killed Koro Sise. Wale Koro da malafan fa, adole mofula police, pomini alongo police uniform mofang do itara police yala karado kola. Alman balafa wala moli, alman balafa bading wali, alman malu alman silal kara wala sangol do kalfang ko you people are sorry when you know basically that you are the perpetrators of that crime. Jo yala fa tambira wala. The highest level of wickedness is when somebody can take your life and nothing more than that, because near more life there is nothing you can do further. That is why sometimes when I look at people, why you think beyond death, what exactly is there to fear? You're dead, you're done. That's life, that's the end of it. So why should you fear a human being? Why should you fear to look into somebody's eyes and say, bro, lawyer definitely do dega do yon? That is just it. I saw some of their politicians going to some Manjago communities, even telling them, oh no, go to Ghana town and fix their problem. Before you go elsewhere, in Tapalian in Tilimbalia Foley. Alta Ghana town, Ale will like dina. Karadol Balman, Gambia dia world. Adol Falman Gambia dia world. Adol man fence to Gambia, Mintambira world. Adol man Katake Gambia, Mintambira world. In another world, Jala Masakunda Dokula, because Albuki Talme, Mutam Multalia, Mutalako, they are not part of this country. That is basically the mentality that needs to change. But Albadi will be Alatuba, will have to do holes or Alef will kite also, Alef will kekuti water. But Molebe mtola banko kamini alonko wuluta jele menta je nintol fongol tara school, but we never even care about their plight. What kind of a people are we? And then we turn around and say we are people of the book, we are religious people, we believe in God. But what kind of God do we worship? Ntolata ala nyadi sifal. Konkatara tirimbalian in tajintia society to even say this is wrong. Nobody would say, look, if I was in Bruford, I would probably be the first person to say Hussein is not a rebel. Karuntole now kudura janna menta jannata rakara munkilin jannabe sabatiri jaman ke rebel to tonyante ale min for tonyante. If I got to go to jail, let me go to jail. Go to jail with dignity than sit with cowardice and act like you're pretentiously protecting yourself from what? From nothing. Now we got to see our society member. Oh no, kind of opposition let me go and fanangana domo no so raji atole political mo domo ni so because almang kamra ko book work. You think life is about just going to support somebody just to get money? I money bodo killing did at $1 million talulta. At $1 million came flash. It man bodo killing so it am a political mode. Instead of looking for a government that is going to bring in equity and justice, transparency and accountability in our governance system, that mobe balu mobe ajogo kol kata nyaminde nga katam fangwe nga soro ni makata fana wala mbareta sila fana ila korda ko ni man kuke mule na ulia leka yesoro waka paranga singabo no nga ndol baye njoy kan ka jibe famini be masakunda wala mjumale mol mini yalon ko wolda madam mani wala bonde masakunda wolta kuke no le fangwe mam mo na fa fene me fa na fa no fenna na man kenyu masakunda da ni boy ya ni political surrogate life wolta fenso do no le fangwe dunya kon ka wol jejanna kuno aninge jejambi ni afo ko kam wala doya baram furata wala tembora because almantra ke guka atol le follow wulta janka ko house you dipin ko le police wala fa house no bojane police wala fa sarbe de le tek fenten fa al maltal al bali ala tambira kara lo ko ka ko ngo weapon ma fo gon and then what is the weapon? The weapon does not have a name. You will never say that because you know everything you said were lies. But even after all those lies, the office of the president gave this man a new contract. That tells you the complicity of the seat of power. The complicity of the regime is clearly manifested in this case. Alana Sankari katela ko konde betala ko la ngata fonsen yandi jede na diata le budun ngani min beta eta ne min data fana esi dula onya bal bulje. But the fact of the matter is that this government got to go. It's not even about got to do better, it's got to go. Go sanji tankanyan dale. Sanji tankanyan dale. Albe mulla satil beti nyala bu mulda mal dundila nyola albe go sifa baker is enough. When you got 10 years, go. Another person comes and then we look at how we reform and probably rebuild our country. And then the fact of the matter is that Gambians easily forget. When you look at people, no, they are building roads. No. Building which roads? Go. If it is about building roads, I just build a road from Banjul all the way to Katong. Build it from Bara all the way to Farafenya or going all the way to the Senegalese border. Build it from Banjul all the way to Basse. Tell me the road that Barrow will build from Banjul to Basse. Another sort of. But a kabiri way tap tilimbali ala kumasumolo konko akanyen tale. Ita man sanji tangere mo fa kumas. Atole ndola economy be bwendi. Atole ndola economy be monopolize ka dial badi ngol nalla dende na mul ne min kala political support pour que Gambian ko tora. Fengo minga sandala sitana isa fo ko dalasi mwani lul. Alko mburo fana leo fana ndala la fa ko denke. Sa atole muna data la. Atole ko you were going to come to government and reduce the government workforce because there was a lot of load on government. But you created more ministries than ever needed in the Gambia. You created more ministries than the Ajama even ever did. You created positions that does not make any sense at all. Why can't you even have chief of staff and minister of presidential affairs, minister of public service, minister of gender here. You were creating more ministries for no good reason, simply because you want to create positions for people. What is the essence of having all these ministries? What is the essence? Because this was a government that was supposed to come and reform and rebuild and, of course, put the civil service on the right footing. But what did they do? They are putting in more ministries that do not make any sense. When we thought you are going to amalgamate some of these ministries and put them together so that they can actually, reduce that pressure on government, what did you do? You are creating more and more, and then using all these political surrogates, taking them to a foreign service. Wala na Gambia ta horoman wala bantala bankol kankaro mol min bije wala me kunni fenya fang bon no nyoto momi yalan ko you cannot even some of those people momi yalan ko edeka books fang do iboka kawasu do mona wose dan dollar foreign service amuna phone la what. You cannot write a simple memo. Muni along ko ani Facebook. We have National Assembly members. Mi along ko hani status for ni status sabi buka along feka angale kang sabi feka Japanese kang sabi. And some of those people, what I don't even understand, tell us that they are lawyers. We need to look into our education system. The likes of Yaya Menteng Sanya. Ni wala dia mo te buka along feka angale kang feka Japanese kang kadu man kang wante. Angale kang buka along feka ni asa fe buka kunna fenyelong. You see that what did they do? They went and seized our lands in prime locations that belongs to the country, state properties that individuals, because of their position and influence and power in governance, are sharing what belongs to everybody. And the same people will turn around and go and give themselves clothing allowance, give themselves parados. Atol ko bank fuara banku atol be maraka wala min yalon ko nin dolo kontonte de siman atol ka parado le sal kan tol nyawal wala tol min ka karte fayali. Mole murun ko denge so mal kale na muru wo mol kale afoy ko la fay nya ko denge ngata ngala ko do be pisil pasal. Some of these people, I saw a taxi driver went to Mecca who was just telling young people the other time that they are cockroaches. Etala taxi driving wo seta sama no maka ni afoy ko ka mol do ya baram furata wol tembo ida ka fondin kel jibe ida ko wol nek kono ita nen tolbe ba struggle kan Gambia ko la jang ko masilo le mulun tan ite taxi ron sa jeki ta because of the influence of your family they made you an MP. You turn around to insult young people fo masakunda ko do dira kere sama maka nin ku ko ran leta ko e ka titar wala fo people come to governance or government not to really help the country, but they come there to actually help themselves, because for them coming into government is about benefiting oneself. It's not about benefiting the country, because they go to work with nothing and they come home with nothing. They add no value to nothing. Their level of productivity is zero. How can that country advance? Wobe bank wobe tano nyadile. So these are the kind of things we got to look at. Inwardly, every political party need to reevaluate themselves and look at the kind of people they send to the National Assembly. Yeah, more footing more calabante they are doing nothing there. If it is about their interest and their own, monetary issues, they are quick to formulate some of those things. When it is about the collective good of the Gambian people, they don't care. Wala tine koni toluneng isi sambakiti wala bar ni toluneng o manke tanati. It also sees all and told control is an told bal name what Oman get another. Nintol get all bal name, also and sambakidi or Omuluasi faldi. You create laws for and against people when you are supposed to represent your people collectively and then look at the greater good of the country, but you are making laws for yourselves against the people that you are supposed to be serving. But the entire Gambia should have stormed that National Assembly and bring it completely to disrepute to say, you know what, what nonsense is that? What kind of a law is that? That if you insult people who are working in government, you can basically go to jail for it or you can pay a fine for it. But how about if people in government insult you? Insult, it all the bafuru and told. Many mantra mansa kundani wala ne wala bala manfudu ha wala mtu nyat. Natolo member mansa kundani mo yatol ne womu wanta yalt. Wala nyantala they fine you or they go to jail. What nonsense law is that? And then we all want to sit and watch that. This is how you want to govern our country. This is what is right for our country. This is what everybody got to accept, that you shit and then create laws that nobody can insult you, but you can go and insult imams, you can go and insult our pastors, you can go and insult our priests, you can go and insult our parents, but that is right. But then nobody can insult you because what? You are in government. Oh yeah, kafanya in a real animal farm. Aya jamela from fish yara told. Atol lo jaw ya fon la na tambital. And this cut across political parties. It's not just, to say the NPP. It's everybody in governance, everybody in that National Assembly who think that it is good to create a law that divides the people to say people in government are better than people who are not in government. Kada wolom what? Atol le fisaman, alla fisaman te yaben tol nyat. Atol le bala fisiaran tol bald. Kad ni mo yatol ban atol so sa mano kidi ola bar na den tol ban nen kuta kala what. That a National Assembly member could sit and call young people their roaches. But that is not an insult. Barba wal ko banandiro ka fale roaches de o manga banandiro no fanan jibe ba watol ko luwa si fale da mo la banko ka. And then you see some of them go and sit in the media house. You go when Usainu Bojang's case actually happened was when I got to realize and pay a little more attention to Gambia and its political dynamics. And not just the politics, but also look at it from legal representation and also a criminal justice system. You see that even lawyers, what I realized was, because I started talking to a couple of people, you know what, we need to get a lawyer for this young man. I hold the conviction that he did not do it, and some of us don't mind to even pay if you want, if that's the case. I started talking to Farmer Hussein, big brother, and then they were talking to other people. Go follow Alfonso Borena. And you know what some of them were telling us? That they are in close association with the government and they cannot take a case with that magnitude. Are you there to establish truth, or you are there to actually protect your interests with government? So at some point I'm beginning to think somebody need to go study law, man. Because our communities need to be defended. It doesn't matter if it take another 4 years, 5 years, or whatever. Still young, I suppose. Got to think around it and see what's possible. But it's necessary, because imagine lawyers telling you, it's about money, it's about the association to the government, it's about the little contracts they're getting from government. That is what they don't want to risk, because for them, it's money over truth, it's money over justice. And these are people who are trained to be lawyers, who basically supposed to defend nothing but the truth in our country, to ensure that there is establishment of justice in our countries. But yet they will tell us that, no, I have a close association with the presidency and of course the government, I cannot take a case like this. Out of nowhere, Pamela called me that, Jedabo said he will take the case out of nothing. So that tells you that when now duta, it's only your own people that will defend you, because at the end of the day, this is just a combo ally to say, you know what, I'm going to defend this dude at no cost. Some of these lawyers I had to even provide the entire conversation of Usainu with the white lady that night of the incident to prove to them that this boy had no hand in this. But even with those evidences in their hands, knowing fully well that Tonya Nyima Nyinke, a malafi toy kuya mansakunda katika fenna soda mansakunda, a malafi fola wall. So I told Tonya Taman into Labanko Kawalanyam. This country is dead. The attitudes are disgusting. The people are self-centered. And of course, when I say the people, it doesn't mean everybody. It's just a selected few. Gambia ni bore ke hakilol today. Minke nyinga jefe fanga soma fanga they might wish you dead. Why I'm told don't worry wal fanga because at the end of the day, what is it? Man lena rekla gomde. You respect me, I respect you. You bring your disrespect on and ninti anybody can wear it. It's just a shirt. Anybody can be nice and anybody can be anyhow. Sometimes we just let go certain things because we got people, whom we respect so much who will tell you, come on, let it slide. Because no man is an island. At some point you gotta listen. Why Lulu can do it tapeti can. So Gambian Kolo Mim Kumara wala nyintiko. You see, we've seen cases before this one. That people stood and vehemently condemned some of the attitudes, including imams and religious leaders. But for Gambia, imam teje religious leader teje mini along ko dia following Hussein Bojan's case. For all teje mini kaje ko Sankari ni mo kotongol ya faniala for ila faniya be for londika wala. Whom did you hear speaking about it? And you hear imams telling, oh no, I wouldn't say anything until this government starts killing people. This government did not kill 3 people in Faraba. This government did not kill, cops. When you listen to the likes of Babali, to get into people and their religions and all of that, we respect that part and we give it to people. But you know what? If you put your mouth into politics, we will do politics with you, irrespective of who you are and what divide of the, the coin you're coming from. In case Fini, you see Imam saying all kind of things, but this other one, you don't care about it, and that is how you people establish justice, and of course, this is how you practice and preach religion in our country. But none of you will tell that, look, this is wrong, it cannot continue. But that is the kind of country we come from, even in our own communities, where you have community leaders and none of them will get up and say, you know what, this young man is not a rebel because we know him in this community, we know his parents, we know their house, and of course they are under our leadership, and then we are here to defend them. But because they always depend on government in one way or another, so they will do what the government wants. Some of us are not dependent on government in whatever way, and we don't care what government has or what government does not have, because at the end of the day, government is for us. I pay taxes. We own properties, we pay taxes, we work in the government, we pay taxes. So nin dolwe siri ka ko ebe siring American tanga minno Gambia dol min ka kuma tilimbalol falamono, because every day we are on our computers running consultancies in that country. We go to work, we close, we cannot sleep because we still got to finish some work that got to do with the development of that country. So you get either shortcut the crap and you sit somewhere talking about your NPP nonsense and you bring it to some of us because we don't care. Our contribution to the economic development of that country and the human resource capacity of that country outweighs anything that you will ever do to death. And then what we could do to even help this same government you're talking about is nothing that you can do. So don't tell us crap, because some of you don't even understand how governance works. No, stop talking about the cops or the likes of that little idiot who you support, Ismail Assise. You tell me, oh, can I give you the phone number of the police? Dude, now give me the phone number of the police or give me the email address of the police. Bragging that, oh yeah, I went to university in Switzerland. You went to university in Switzerland. Who cares about going to university in Switzerland? Who really cares about that? If it is to brag, some of us are invited to top university in Switzerland to come and speak to them, not to go there to school, but to come and tell them what we know and what is right and what they got to do better. So you all got to team up and then, level up a little bit. Because you support Cisse or you support another person, you want to tell me that, oh no, stop talking about the cops, or you're talking too much, or you're too loud about this cops issue. Wait for it to be your mother to be in jail so you can tell me I'm loud about it. When people start insulting people, they don't know where to go to. I saw one little boy not long ago insulted Almami Manga, brought it down to say it. Now I told him, you know what? Now Gambia, then they understand that of course there are people who can match my level. And many times people will inbox you, no, you don't need to go. But when they are insulting you, they will not say anything. When you backfire them, they'll tell, no, boy, you don't need to go low. There is nothing like low and high. Man, amelo maken dara mola julutan na julutan mola. Amelo ngalom fangole moma dunkunkono whatever. So nobody will come and tell me this is going to bring you down, bring you up. Bring me down or bring me up to what level? Who cares? People will sit and insult you, and you people think that's very all right. Oh, you should not get back to them. You just need to let them. There are people to ignore, and you only ignore intelligent people who understand that ignoring them makes some sense to them, that they got to stop what they're doing. But there are people who do not have that common sense, who think that they only feed their egos through insulting and attacking other people that they never even know, they never even met. They only see online and say, you know what, let me go look for a name through this guy. Let me go insult them. You bring that down to me, fuck, man. That is just it. Kondekabi, we got to put this country on its right footing. And that includes everyone talking to people to understand that it's not about the regime, and supporting this regime does not mean that it's about political choice. No, it's dislike to country, and of course, lack of patriotism that would lead somebody to actually support this regime, because 10 years should be enough for any leadership. This is why we brought about the change. This is basically what was promised to Gambia. This is basically strong institution that we were supposed to build, but of course, everything around that has failed. That is why they could sell Jammeh's cows for 5,000, gender I moto I 3, 4,000. Bataraya. And 75% of those materials are still not even listed. Because what people know and what exactly exists are far different. Nguru bi mo gena yesi aduna bi yep. Nguru bi mo gena bon si nguru yo musa gisi aduna. Nguru bi mo gena nyaka muntara si nguru yo musa gisi aduna. This government only, people are there to pick salaries, but people don't put in anything. They put in no effort. You see people who are directors of certain critical institutions that require scientific knowledge, who would have studied just European studies, and then because one minister who does not know anything would just pick you and give you, a directorate position, or because we are related to the president, and then the president will give you a particular, who will take military people and bring them and tell them to be director of forestries, who are going to be representing the Gambia at the United Nations, convention to combat desertification. Imagine military man who has zero technical capacity to go and represent the Gambia at a UN body. What is he going to say? Just like the current minister we have, who at some point you sit on the spot, like on typical conversations, on a panel, you are asked basic questions that you can tell that even the person asking you questions are looking at people on the floor like, what exactly is this woman saying? Because you do not understand even simple terminologies. There are subjects that you can give ministerial positions to people, but there are certain disciplines that require technical capacity because they cannot just be handled by any riffraff. And that is basically what Barrow has reduced our government to, just a government of riffraffs. That is why he will always belittle education, because he is not educated himself. That's the point. And that is why people, no, leadership comes with wisdom. But if that wisdom is not visible in you and greed have superseded wisdom, then it's high time that people say, you gotta go. And then most of you turn to say, no, UDP is bad here and there. Look, Gambia has an option. Gambia need to be put on the right footing, and Gambia need a 2-term limit. Gambia basically need a leadership that cannot stay beyond 10 years. Gambia needs strong institutions. Gambia needs a new constitution. And Gambia need to be put on the right footing, and that is now. And then we cannot excuse 2026 for it, because if we do, that is going to be like putting Gambia in hellfire. Nimantara kono already. Karimbe min kono woni jahannama dum fo at some point ndamala fay farata la fam malo. Baluwe koleare molma ko mona kilim. Albe mulla dulal tinyala e albera mulla korra bundal ko tinya ka fo ko atol be sila fen ko le ka fa nyaade operation clear the road. What nonsense that was. Albert ala salaji mol mi yalon ko e do ko ke fay bina fala ke la bungol lo ko la bungol boy tilimbal yanin tajinde yaka. Albe mulla banko ta la batala al dam mal tema ka to le barakatan tolti. Monopolizing key sectors, key drivers of our economy. Imagine the construction department in the Gambia, construction industry. Mi alonko funding ke jamal ka mamanje. Atole jeki rek ale simento lam fengo be mutalia monopolize mo kilia. When it is not available, the entire country is on shutdown. That the prices would hike almost to 600. But I'll call you money water killer 6 to 7 to 900. But you mistaking rice for cement. Albe cement wala no water. Sato le muna kata Gambian ko, lato le muna kentoli. Or because you expanded those roads, and none of those roads were Barrow's project. These were basically OIC projects. The reason why Jammeh said Gambia was an Islamic state was basically to attract, those investments from the Arab world. And when he got all of those monies coming in, is basically when the change of government happened. And of course, those things are to be continued. That is continuity of governance. But that does not mean that Barakole was sintola. Attente. You want Sarajele. What it Barakwe muna sintola. Na manke kara mol jorendi $20 la mulla airport of on ka du fon la banko kan ke jorendi ka finti la banko kan ke jorendi enene waje muntol and woko do fon ka du muntole. There is no accountability on this security port, that in your own country you got to pay $20. To get into your own country and to leave your own country, you got to pay money. Who are you paying it to? What are they situated? Because I remember one time I was with a minister just by, Kalugejul Pick Damming. I was reading this book. I don't remember the title again, The Evolution of Humankind. And we were talking about the book. And all of a sudden, by the time I get into the car, I don't see my book again. I said, and I just paid $20, for security fee. Security fees, I book osunya. What kind of security is that? But this is basically how they said they kind of, for maintenance labang, for Kenya di labang, somebody went to the restroom and then came back and said, ma fong na feel like I don't defar. Ko bro, mo de wax ay wax yi fi lañ doon defar boy, ñu dem suñu dem. Ñi seen wax du ma ci duga. Look at our independent stadium. You look at all sectors of youth development, what is happening in the Gambia. You go to even our education system where people, I remember when some of us started Gambia College at the time, we were being paid, I bought $300 and $80 or 390, whatever. But then all of a sudden they kind of transformed it into students paying. So now it's no longer even about, the qualified rural villagers who do not have the money to go to university and could get free college education, but it's now monetized. It's about the financialization of our education system. Also, college education is no longer by merit. It's about who can pay. That is why some people will have 0 credit and still go to college. Ñu pare ñu ne ñoom ñooy dem jàngal suñu xale yi. Yan xale la ñoo jàngal. Kooku lan la mën a jàngal. Ku xamul dara naka la moo mën a jàngalee nit. But the system is built in that way. Alko molto fala. People used to be paid to go to college and they were giving, housing within the facilities. But what did you do? You could not sustain it. You could not maintain it. You turn it around and say people got to pay. And now the worst of people will go to college and become teachers simply because they have the, financial muscle to pay. And those who probably would be coming from the rural communities and have the ability to learn and of course have the required credits to do so, but they don't have the money to pay, will actually drop out because they cannot pay. When people are struggling to put 2-3 square meals for their families, how can they even think about going to college when they cannot pay? You're asking them to pay money, and all of a sudden it's like University of Gambia College, University of MDI, University of GTTI. I do gotta figure when it's a sector that I know because I work in the higher education sector. It's all bogus. You look at the kind of people who are actually coming out of that, and then the people who are going to be administering that. It doesn't make any sense. Of course, TVET is a very interesting thing that needs to be looked at. Engineering and all related matters are things that definitely need to be. But what is the point? The best of people, the best of graduates, or the best of high school graduates should go to some of these institutions. But what is happening? It's not the best that are going there. It's probably the worst. My Bena boy was actually teaching in one of these institutions when he left UTG to teach in one of those universities because there was an engineering program, basic calculus, the people cannot pass. So what's the point? Even in my own institution, some people would pay money to be giving admission to come in there. What nonsense is that? Because we are reducing the country to nothing. And as much as it exists all over the world that you got to know somebody to get a certain kind of job. But of course, in some part of the world, even though you need to know somebody, but you also need to have the credentials to back it. But in the Gambia, some employments are basically by biological inheritance. So all those because we don't care about some of you people because you acquired your job through biological inheritance. It's not basically through hard work. Kon deka bi da ngeen koy tek ci yoon. Ñu masakunda manke masakunda tilindinti. Ita tilina. If you want things cheaply, go and join NPP and start screaming everywhere. You'll become a presidential advisor. Oppose them vehemently for 1 year and then go and join them. You will be giving a new car when the police don't even have a car to actually go on patrol. But the likes of Sabali could leave the UDP and join the NPP, and they are giving new cars. When police stations in the Gambia do not go to Sukuta law or machine Jurland Tulado, you have damage Sukuta police station. But the NPP is building headquarters of political bureaus. Where did the NPP get money? NPP they don't even do any fundraising, if not for this year. So where did the NPP got money to actually be building mansions? And then they just bring all of these little position seekers, and then they said, oh, they all establish political parties. The smart thing that some idiots would do now is to establish a political party and join the regime so that they can either make you a minister or put you in some embassies elsewhere. Job seekers. So to get political appointment now, You need to form a political party, and of course you'll be and join the regime, and then you are giving a position. This is what the Gambians need to understand, that until the common man understands the problem of our society and the reflection of our reality, and of course we put aside our differences and come together to realize that this is the country we got and this is the country we need to salvage, because the trend is as disgusting as nobody can imagine, then we will continue to keep talking against each other. You know, imagine oppositions talking against each other when you should be a united force, come together to ensure that there is a common enemy in this case, and the common denominator is the Gambia, and of course the person who needs to leave is the person who wants to rule beyond 10 years. Any person who wants to rule beyond 10 years should be considered a rebel in the Gambia. What for? So put the differences aside and ensure that, you know, the fact of the matter is that the Gambia needs that now. Even if I don't like this particular person, I will put that dislike aside, because there is no way I can like somebody who would kill, you know, police officers, and of course incarcerate my young homie, and of course bring witnesses to lie against him in court. No way. No way can I like a regime like that. It's regrettable and it's disgusting that people would have supported in one way or another a regime like that. No. I know ham nañ ko. And they know ñu nekkuñ di leen may dara, because they know that we are exposing their dirt, and they are dirty. And of course, their hands are filled, stained with the blood of the innocent police officers who did them no wrong. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been here too long, but I think, you know, we've said quite a lot. You know, I think Melville has lost his grandmother or something, or, you know, his child's grandmother or something. So, you know, I'm sending my condolences, bro. I would, you know, hopefully by the time you get over that, we'll be able to have these conversations going. But you know, in all political divides, we have good and of course bad people, you know, including the opposition, the regime. There are good and bad people. At the end of the day, we got to see the Gambia first. And Hussein Obojang has proven to be very innocent in this case. And of course, now the onus lies on the government to tell us who really killed the cops, if it is not them, because they're the ones who were lying altogether about the case, you know. So atara na wala mutonyati ninga ofodung wala mutonyati nimmo ofodung, you know, min diara nyam bola fokandro. But the fact of the matter is that Gambia got to see beyond, you know, this regime come 2026, and then voting for this regime is no longer going to be like, you know, a political choice. It's going to be hate for country, because mimbe keri mbele nyaji na banko karanya mbele nyaji. We listened to the military yesterday saying the honey uniform or combat of Bukasotu. We have seen 8 years of our country being, you know, given to Senegalese to control our intelligence and everything in our country. But, you know, the occupation of foreign forces in a country leads to insecurity in that country. That is why we are having a lot of security threats. We are having a lot of murder cases. We are having a lot of criminality and banditry in the country. That nobody, you are not safe at home. You are not safe at work. You go to sleep. You are not safe. You are even thinking, if I wake up from you cannot. A couple of days before we left Gambia, what would have happened? I went to conduct an exam at the UTG because I had to fly out to Belgium at the time. Imagine between 2 hours of that morning going to conduct exams and then returning home. I just met somebody, broke all my windows, my glasses. You know, just looking for money. Who is safe in the country? The people are not safe in their houses. A boy left to go to work, Citizen Daju's brother, just to be killed on the road. You go to work, you are not safe in the streets. You are not safe at home. You are not safe at work. Because I remember even back at work, people came and stole all our computers at work, stole all our even refrigerators at work. Ndapo go understand no. Now office all kononteng, now suol kononteng, street all fanankanteng. So what exactly is it? And then we say we have a government, we have security. Who is securing who? It's only one man who has security in the Gambia, that is the president, and he's secured by the foreign occupying forces. And those people are only taking intelligence to Senegal, and of course, any money bodo from Ikasunya and Akara, and go be for Rajan. But any massa kunda kurunsifa niaso the Waleka police or fire Muri Uliala model. So I thank you very much. Papala, inka numbara, you know, kai kroke, you know. I hope you all are doing well. You know, it's always good to have you around. Kai eri alon kai sancha ma fang usenu nyolka, you know, all malandong gol that konyokang, you know. Marabutong, you know, kai ni masa kunda kurun si fal kai momte, you know, ntangambulo be kunyen la kura lama. So, you know, I thank you all, and I, you know, hope that some other day, you know, we're back on here. The case is coming back on Monday, where DIG so will actually go to court yellow ni ka fo go lo box ko no yela mo yefan la itele nyim fo maf on tela nga fo maf ni amwe nga fo le maf imam video la ni nya ko ke fo jibe min fo ya abe fo yi nya la ko tak ona nin ke ba thank you.